So for me, um, I loved the videos, and it just kind of had me thinking about my own thoughts about heroes in my life and how it's affected me. So I just thought about my father, and really growing up as a little kid, the one thing that I always wanted was his approval, and I wanted to know that he felt like I was worth it. So for me as a kid, my hero that was shattered was my father. He's a guy that provided financially, but wasn't around for me. I'll say specifically, some of my siblings. I had three older sisters. He showed attention, affection, but I felt like I didn't get that. He wasn't around. He wasn't there. And looking back after I got saved, I saw how my dad's issues. I took that on personally, and I reflected that in my own self worth and my value. And ultimately, all through my early childhood into my teenage years, I tried to win my father's approval with sports, and my dad played baseball. I played baseball. I did well. He wouldn't come to the games, that kind of stuff, and it affected me. And I think at some point, about the time I was probably 14, 15 years old, and I never got my father's approval. I never got his attention. He wasn't there for me, and I started to act out. And God really showed me at one point when I gave my life to Him that that's where my rebellious nature started, because I didn't get the attention and the approval from my father. So it's kind of that old thing that negative attention is better than no attention. And so for me, three older sisters, there was a lot of older male type figures in my life who were doing a lot of the wrong things. And since I didn't have a father around, I started looking to those guys for father type figures in my life. And so my father, when I got saved and I gave my life to God, that's like the first thing that I had to deal with is I blamed my dad for how I turned out, and that was a crutch for me. And so the first thing I did when I got saved was I had to forgive my dad for being human, for having flaws and faults. And what God did is He took that crutch away from me. That was a thing that I always turned back to and said, I'm messed up because of my dad. And so I no longer had that to rely on. And I had to deal with myself at that point. And so for me, that was tough. It was difficult. But God has also restored my relationship with my father. I see Him in His humanness today, in the good qualities that He has. And God's actually put my relationship with my dad back together in a way that it's better than it's ever been today. So only God can do that. And I think for me, I'll just say it's a process. Like I don't think that I think a lot of lessons I've learned in life is that people that I've looked up to, pastors, men who people, women, whoever we put up on these pedestals are flawed. We're all flawed, and the only one that was perfect was Jesus. And so it's like you have to allow people to be human. I've learned that, and I've learned that if I want perfection, the only place that I can press into is my relationship with Jesus, because He's the only one who's perfect. And a lot of times in my own imperfection, I have to take refuge in that and allow God to continue to shape and mold me. Um, I think that for me, it's just a matter of continuing to look to God, in my own weakness and in the weakness of other people, to both receive and give forgiveness. And I understand that we are flawed and we are fallible. And I also understand today, I have 13, 9-year-old daughters, and my son is about to be 3. So I also understand there's a video that talks about the little footsteps that follow behind and they're watching. And so for me today, like, I understand my kids, that I don't have to be the way that my father was with me. I forgive him for that. But I can also, I can be there for my kids in a way that my father wasn't for me, and learn from what I didn't get as a child, and that they are watching me. I am an example. And I also, in my weakness, I try to show my kids that I'm not perfect, but in my weakness, it's what I do in those imperfections that really determine who I am and who we are as people. Like, do I clean up my mess? Do I ask for forgiveness? Do I own it when I'm wrong? Do I do those things in a way so that, like, yes, I'm not perfect, but it's in the imperfection that in our brokenness that God loves to work. And so I just try to teach my kids, the best I can, so that they grow up to ultimately know God and understand. Like, it's not about religion. It's not about knowing every word of the Bible. It's about your relationship with God and really pressing into Him when you need Him. And even my dad's found that, and a lot of our conversations revolve around that. So, yeah, I think this was an awesome topic. Really helped me to think about some things today, and I appreciate it, Dr. Smith. This is an awesome class. I'm enjoying it so far, so I look forward to the rest of the class. Thank you.